early 2000s, whispers began about a strange broadcast on a little-known local station, Channel 27. The show, titled Happy Town Junction, was a low-budget children's program featuring puppets and cheerful songs. But one episode, known only as The Incident, was different. Viewers recalled the puppets moving awkwardly, their glassy eyes staring too long at the camera. The host, usually upbeat, spoke in a slow, monotone voice, reciting nonsensical phrases. Halfway through, the screen flickered, and the show cut to static. When the feed returned, the puppets were slumped over, and the host stood silently, staring at the camera. Then, in a distorted voice, the host whispered, "They're watching. Don't look away." The screen went black. Reports from viewers varied. Some felt dizzy or disoriented. Others claimed to hear faint whispers long after the episode ended. A few said they saw shadowy figures reflected in their screens. Channel 27 refused to comment, and the episode was never re-aired. One former employee claimed it wasn't part of the regular programming and blamed it on a rogue signal hijack. Others believed it was an experiment in subliminal messaging. No footage of Happy Town Junction has ever surfaced, but conspiracy theorists claim the broadcast was real. Those who dig too deeply into it report strange occurrences, untraceable calls, corrupted files, and TVs turning on by themselves, always to static. The last known words from the show still haunt those who remember. "They're watching, don't look away."
What if I told you there's a ghostly tale that haunts the roads of Ghana? The Vanishing Hitchhiker is a chilling story of a young woman who appears on dark, lonely highways, seeking a ride. Drivers often pick her up, noticing her beautiful but sorrowful face. She asks to be taken to a specific location, but mysteriously vanishes from the car, leaving only a lingering coldness. This tale has origins in real events, as some believe she is the spirit of a woman who died tragically. Variations include different locations and reasons for her ghostly presence, but all share a common theme: vengeance for her untimely demise. Subscribe for more eerie tales from around the world. What if I told you there's a place in Kenya where the trees whisper? Known as the Whispering Forest, this eerie location is said to be haunted by spirits of those who met untimely ends. Originating from local folklore, travelers speak of hearing unearthly whispers that lure them deeper into the woods. Some say these voices belong to lost souls seeking help, while others believe they are warnings. The forest's dark history is tied to colonial-era atrocities, leaving a lingering energy that haunts the living. Locals advise against entering alone after dark, as many have vanished without a trace. If you dare, tread carefully, but remember, some whispers aren't meant to be answered. Subscribe for more chilling tales. What if I told you there exists a creature in South America known as the Pishtaco? This vampire-like being is said to roam the Andes, targeting unsuspecting travelers. Legends claim that the Pishtaco preys on the blood and fat of its victims, using their essence to gain power. Originating from indigenous folklore, the myth intensified during colonization, fueled by fears of exploitation and loss. Accounts vary, with some describing the Pishtaco as a tall, pale figure, while others depict it as a monstrous spirit. In real events, unexplained disappearances in remote areas have been linked to this eerie legend. Beware, for the Pishtaco may be watching you. Subscribe for more chilling tales. What if I told you about La Siguanaba, a haunting figure from El Salvador? Legend speaks of a beautiful woman who lures men into the night, only to reveal her true form, a terrifying, skeletal visage. Originating from indigenous tales, her story warns against infidelity and irresponsible behavior. Variations suggest she preys on those who stray from their loved ones, seeking vengeance for a betrayal. Many claim to have encountered her ghostly form near rivers and dark roads, where she calls out to the unsuspecting. Her eerie laughter echoes through the night, leaving victims lost forever. Beware, for La Siguanaba's beauty masks a deadly secret. Subscribe for more chilling tales. What if I told you that the Slender Man, an internet meme, transformed into a terrifying urban legend? Originating in 2009 on a forum, he was depicted as a tall, faceless figure haunting children. This fictional creation quickly morphed into something sinister. Variations of his story emerged, claiming he abducted children or drove them to madness. In 2014, the legend took a horrifying turn when two girls, influenced by the myth, attempted to murder a classmate to appease him. This chilling incident revealed how far the fan theory had penetrated young minds. The Slender Man serves as a reminder of how folklore can evolve and influence reality. Subscribe for more eerie tales. What if I told you the Red Room holds the darkest secrets of Hill House? This chilling space is a character all its own, adapting to the fears and desires of those who enter. Originating from the novel by Shirley Jackson, the Red Room symbolizes personal trauma and the ghosts of the past. Many believe it reflects the family's struggles, revealing their hidden terrors. Variations of the theory suggest it's a manifestation of grief or a portal to the afterlife, echoing real events of loss and mental illness. The unsettling atmosphere leaves viewers questioning reality itself. To uncover more mysteries, don't forget to subscribe for the latest theories that will haunt your thoughts. What if I told you there was a mysterious arcade game that could warp your mind? Enter Polybius, a game that supposedly emerged in the early 1980s in Portland, Oregon. According to urban legend, this enigmatic game was said to induce seizures, nightmares, and even madness in those who played it. Gamers reported vivid hallucinations and psychological changes. Some claimed it was a government experiment designed to test mind control techniques on unsuspecting children. The origins of Polybius are shrouded in mystery, with no concrete evidence of its existence, leading many to speculate if it was merely a myth. Could it be that some games are better left unplayed? Subscribe for more eerie tales like this one. If you see strange lights at night in the Ural Mountains, just run. In 1959, a group of 9 experienced hikers mysteriously perished at Dyatlov Pass. Their tent was found cut open from the inside, and the hikers fled into the freezing wilderness without adequate clothing. Some had bizarre injuries. One victim had a missing tongue, while others displayed inexplicable trauma, resembling a car crash but without external wounds. Rumors of secret military tests or Yeti encounters have fueled speculation. This chilling event remains unsolved, with theories ranging from aliens to government cover-ups. What truly happened that fateful night? Subscribe for more eerie stories. If you see the other mother at night in your dreams, just run. This character, with her button eyes and sinister smile, is rooted in deeper horrors than her whimsical appearance suggests. The theory posits that she represents a dark manifestation of parental neglect and abandonment. Originating from Neil Gaiman's novella, The Other Mother is a twisted reflection of Coraline's real mother, who is overwhelmed and inattentive. Variations of this theory explore the unsettling idea that she lures children into a false paradise to feed on their souls, a grim echo of real-life stories of child exploitation. The haunting visuals and chilling essence of The Other Mother remind us of the dark corners of our own realities. Subscribe for more eerie tales. If you see a familiar yellow sponge at night in a dark ocean, just run. There's a terrifying theory that suggests Bikini Bottom is an underwater post-apocalyptic world. This theory originated from fans piecing together the bizarre and often surreal elements of the show. The colorful sea creatures and whimsical settings hide a grim reality, hinting at the aftermath of nuclear war. The characters might represent the remnants of humanity, coping with their tragic fate. Variations of the theory explore the idea that the ocean is a graveyard, with the cheerful facade masking deep sorrow. Dive deep into this chilling narrative. Subscribe for more eerie tales. If you see a shadowy figure at night in Arendelle, just run. The chilling theory surrounding Disney's Frozen suggests that Elsa and Anna's parents are part of a darker narrative than viewers realize. Legend has it that their ship sank in a storm, but some fans believe they did not perish. Instead, they were victims of a sinister plot to hide a dark secret about their royal lineage. This theory connects to real events, such as maritime tragedies and royal betrayals throughout history. The chilling implications suggest that their disappearance was orchestrated to eliminate a threat to the kingdom. As layers of this haunting tale unfold, one wonders what else lies beneath the surface. Subscribe for more chilling theories. What if all you know about summoning spirits was a lie? The Midnight Game is a chilling ritual that beckons dark entities into your home. Originating from ancient pagan practices, this game requires participants to light a candle, write their name on paper, and run from a malevolent spirit. The game starts at midnight, where players must evade the spirit for 3 hours, or face horrifying consequences. Variations of the game exist, with some claiming it's a test of bravery. Real events have fueled its fearsome reputation, leading to stories of players experiencing terrifying hauntings. Dare to play? Remember, once invited, these spirits may never leave. Subscribe for more chilling tales. What if all you know about reality was a lie? The Mandela Effect suggests that countless people share false memories of events, characters, and pop culture moments. Originating from Nelson Mandela's death, which many recalled occurring in the 1980s, the effect raises chilling questions about our perception of reality. Variations include misremembered movie quotes like, "Luke, I am your father," and the Berenstain Bears confusion. Some believe these discrepancies hint at alternate dimensions or time travel. Others argue it's a mass psychological phenomenon. Real-life tragedies, like the loss of the Titanic, may also feed this eerie narrative. Are we living in a simulation? Subscribe for more chilling tales. What if all you know about the Blair Witch Project was a lie? The film, released in 1999, captivated audiences with its raw, found footage style. But its origins delve into unsettling real-life events. The myth of the Blair Witch traces back to the 18th century, inspired by tales of a woman accused of witchcraft in Burkittsville, Maryland. Locals claimed she cursed the forest, leading to eerie disappearances. In the film, 3 filmmakers vanish, echoing these stories. The chilling ambiguity between fact and fiction made viewers question reality. The filmmakers capitalized on local legends, blurring lines that still haunt fans today. Subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. What if I told you about a house no one escapes alive? In Hunter x Hunter, the Zoldyck family mansion looms atop Kookaroo Mountain, guarded by deadly beasts and electrified gates. Home to the world's most feared assassins, the mansion is said to hide unspeakable horrors within its walls. Though fictional, fans wonder, could the Zoldyck legend be inspired by real tales of isolated clans and their deadly secrets? Subscribe for more stories that blur the line between fiction and reality. What if a whistle meant your doom? In Venezuela and Colombia, the chilling legend of Elbon has terrified generations. Cursed to wander the earth for murdering his father, Elbon carries a sack of bones and haunts the night. His whistle deceives, sounding distant when he's close and near when he's far. He preys on drunks, womanizers, or those who linger outside late at night. Victims often turn up dead, drained of blood, with no sign of struggle. Some say he's a warning to live a virtuous life, while others claim to have heard his eerie whistle in the still of the night. Would you recognize the sound before it's too late? What if everything you knew about Poltergeist was a lie? The iconic 1982 film Poltergeist isn't just famous for its chilling storyline. It's also surrounded by one of Hollywood's most enduring legends, the so-called Poltergeist curse. It all began with a controversial decision during production, using real human skeletons to make the movie feel more authentic. This unsettling choice sparked rumors of a curse that seemed to follow the cast and crew. Over the years, some key cast members faced strange and unexpected events in their lives, fueling the speculation that something eerie might have been at play. Fans have long debated whether the film's dark themes somehow bled into reality, creating an air of mystery that lingers to this day. Could it all just be a coincidence? Or is there more to this chilling tale? What if all you know about the Hope Diamond was a lie? This stunning gem, known for its deep blue hue, is rumored to bring misfortune and tragedy to its owners. The tale begins with its origins in India, where it was stolen from a Hindu temple, said to belong to a goddess. This act of theft set off a chain of calamities. Owners faced mysterious deaths, madness, and financial ruin. King Louis XVI and his family were not spared. Their fates ended in execution. Variations of the story suggest the diamond carries a curse, punishing those who possess it. Many believe the jewel is still cursed today, haunting its current owner. Could it be that the legend holds a sinister truth? Subscribe for more chilling stories. What if the truth behind the dancing plague of 1518 is more terrifying than you've ever imagined? It was a hot summer in Strasbourg, France, when an inexplicable phenomenon took hold of the town. A woman named Frau Trophea began dancing in the streets, without music, without stopping. Days passed, and her movements grew frantic, her feet bleeding, yet she couldn't stop. Soon, dozens of others joined her. Men, women, and children danced uncontrollably, their bodies convulsing in rhythm to an invisible beat. Within a month, the number of dancers had swelled to over 400. Some collapsed from exhaustion. Others suffered heart attacks or strokes. But why? Theories abound. Was it ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic mold on bread that induced hysteria? Or a mass psychogenic illness fueled by stress and superstition? But some accounts suggest something far darker. Witnesses claimed to see shadowy figures lurking near the dancers, figures that seemed to move in unison with them, pulling their strings like puppeteers. Others whispered that the dancers' eyes were vacant, as if their souls were no longer their own. Some priests believed it was divine punishment, while others feared it was the work of the devil himself. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the dancing stopped, leaving only lifeless bodies and unanswered questions. What really happened in 1518? Was it a plague, a curse, or something even more sinister? Something that still lingers, waiting to strike again? Want more chilling mysteries from the past? Subscribe for stories that will haunt your nights. In 1872, the Mary Celeste was found drifting aimlessly in the Atlantic Ocean, its sails tattered but intact. The ship was eerily silent, the crew nowhere to be found. A half-eaten meal sat abandoned on the captain's table, and the ship's lifeboat was missing. Yet, there were no signs of a struggle. No blood, no damage, nothing to explain the vanishing. Speculation ran wild. Pirates? Mutiny? A deadly storm? But the more investigators looked, the stranger the mystery became. Personal belongings were untouched, and the ship's cargo was undisturbed. Some sailors who later boarded the Mary Celeste claimed they felt an oppressive presence, as if the ship itself was alive and watching. Legends whispered that the ship had been cursed long before that doomed voyage. Others claimed ghostly figures were seen on deck at night, and some even believed the crew had been lured away by phantom lights on the water. Whatever happened, the Mary Celeste's empty decks remain a haunting enigma. What secrets do the waves keep hidden? Subscribe for more chilling mysteries of the deep. What if all you know about the Conjuring House was a lie? Originating from real-life events in the 1970s, this infamous location is steeped in horror. The Perron family who moved in experienced unexplained phenomena, whispers, cold spots, and ghostly apparitions. Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators, were called to help. They claimed the house was haunted by a witch named Bathsheba Sherman, who once lived there and cursed anyone who dared to take her land. The family's terrifying encounters inspired chilling tales, blurring reality and fiction. Are the Warrens' claims fabricated, or is something sinister lurking within those walls? Subscribe for more eerie stories.
Sarah moved into a new apartment, delighted at the cheap rent and central location. The landlord had only one rule: never open the door to the locked room at the end of the hall. Sarah agreed, but her curiosity gnawed at her. One night, she found the key under the kitchen sink. She hesitated, then slid it into the lock. The door creaked open, revealing an empty, windowless room, or so she thought. Shadows seemed to gather in the corners, and as she stepped in, the door slammed shut behind her. Her screams echoed through the building. The next tenant was told the same rule and never questioned why the rent was so low. Kevin hated the old house his family had moved into. It was drafty, the floors creaked, and the air vents made strange noises. At night, he'd hear scratching and whispers coming from them. His parents blamed raccoons. One night, the whispering turned into words, "Let me out." Kevin, thinking it was a prank, peered into the vent with a flashlight. Two glowing eyes stared back. Before he could scream, a hand shot out, dragging him into the darkness. His parents found the vent cover torn off and Kevin's room empty. They never heard whispers again, but the scratching continued. Emma's birthday began with excitement, her friends surrounding her as she tore open presents. Among the colorful wrapping was a small porcelain doll with glassy eyes that seemed to follow her every move. Initially charmed, Emma soon found the doll unsettling. Its gaze felt too intense, almost alive. She named her Clara and placed her on the shelf where Clara could oversee the room. That night, Emma awoke to a soft thudding sound. The doll had shifted a few inches on the shelf. Its head turned slightly as if watching her sleep. Dismissing it as a trick of the light, she fell back asleep. But the thumping returned each night, growing louder. An insistent reminder of the eyes that seemed to know her secrets. One evening, she caught a glimpse of Clara's reflection in the glass. The doll's smile appeared wider, almost mocking. Fear gnawed at Emma, yet she couldn't bring herself to part with Clara. On the final night, she woke to find Clara sitting on her bed, eyes wide and empty. In a panic, Emma grabbed the doll, throwing it into the closet. The next morning, she discovered her parents were gone, leaving nothing but a note saying they could no longer watch her. Clara was now free, her watchful eyes finally without human restraint. In the center of the park stood an ancient tree that locals claimed could speak. At night, children dared each other to approach it. When Lucy leaned in close, she heard faint whispers promising to grant her deepest wish. She wished for her brother, lost in a tragic accident, to return. The next morning, he stood at her door, but something was wrong. His eyes were empty, his movements jerky. That night, the tree whispered again, demanding payment for its gift. Lucy's screams echoed through the park as the tree's roots pulled her beneath the soil. The locals knew better than to approach the decaying tree at the edge of town. Rumors swirled about what happened to those who ventured too close. Last year, a boy named Sam disappeared after chasing a squirrel into the thick, gnarled roots. It was said the tree whispered his name on the wind. One cold evening, driven by curiosity and the thrill of danger, Maya and her friends gathered their courage to investigate. They huddled together as they approached the tree, its bark twisted and dark, like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. A faint rustling came from within, a sound like a child's laughter, echoing through the stillness. Against her better judgment, Mia reached out and touched the rough surface. The laughter turned to a shriek, sharp and piercing. The tree quivered, and a hollow crevice opened, revealing a dark void. Mia peered in, her heart racing. Suddenly, skeletal hands reached out, grasping her wrist. She screamed, but no one could hear. As darkness swallowed her, she realized the truth. The tree was hungry, and now it had claimed her. The friends ran, but no one would ever find Mia again, just as no one had found Sam. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, there's a stretch of forest where people vanish. Locals call it the Hungry Forest. Legends speak of ancient spirits that feed on those who wander too far off the paths. Lila and her friends went camping there, scoffing at the warnings. On the second night, they heard the trees creak and groan like they were alive. Lila awoke to find her friends gone and strange symbols carved into the ground around her tent. The whispers in the wind grew louder, urging her deeper into the woods. Her last journal entry, found weeks later, simply read, "The forest is starving." In the village of Eldergrove, a thick, shimmering mist rolled in one fateful evening, swallowing homes and streets in its eerie embrace. The villagers, accustomed to its whispers, dared not venture outside. But as dusk fell, a group of children, drawn by a strange allure, crept into the fog. They giggled, unaware of the shadows lurking beneath. As they wandered deeper, the laughter faded, replaced by a soft, haunting melody that seemed to beckon them onward. Suddenly, the mist parted, revealing an ancient well. Its stones, slick with moisture, glistened under the faint light. One child, a girl named Clara, felt an inexplicable urge to peer inside. The moment she leaned over, the melody intensified, transforming into anguished cries. Startled, her friends rushed to her side, but the well had begun to pulsate, the fog swirling faster around them. As they stumbled back, Clara's eyes widened in horror. From the depths, ghostly figures emerged, their faces twisted in despair. They were the lost villagers, trapped for generations, their secrets now laid bare. The children screamed, but the mist thickened, sealing their fate. Eldergrove would never forget that night, where the past clawed its way back, forever entwined with the living. Lena inherited her grandmother's old house, a crumbling relic in a forgotten part of town. As she stepped inside, the air felt thick and heavy, laden with lingering memories. The walls whispered softly, a constant murmur that seemed to weave through the very fabric of the house. At first, she dismissed it as the sound of the wind, but as night descended, the whispers grew clearer, forming words she couldn't quite catch. Curiosity turned to dread when she began to hear her name, drawn out in a breathy, pleading tone. Lena, it beckoned, echoing through the dimly lit rooms. She followed the sound, heart racing, to a locked door at the end of a narrow hallway. The whispers escalated into frantic cries. With trembling hands, she forced the door open, revealing a dusty nursery filled with forgotten toys. The air turned icy, and the whispers stopped abruptly. In the silence, she spotted a small figure in the corner. A girl, pale and hollow-eyed, stared back at her. "Help me," she rasped. Lena reached out, but as her fingers brushed the girl's hand, the figure vanished, leaving only a fading whisper. "You should never have come here." The walls resumed their murmurs, now laughing, as Lena realized she was never truly alone.
What if I told you the word abracadabra wasn't just a magician's trick, but an ancient spell tied to forces we barely understand? A word whispered through centuries, carrying a power both feared and revered. Its origins are cloaked in mystery. Some believe it comes from the Aramaic phrase, "I create as I speak," spoken to invoke creation or destruction. Others link it to Abraxas, a name tied to ancient demons and forbidden secrets. In the 2nd century, Roman healers used it in rituals to banish sickness. They wrote it in a triangular pattern, the letters vanishing line by line, as if erasing a curse, or calling something darker into being. But what if abracadabra was never meant for healing? What if its true purpose was to summon forces lurking in the shadows, waiting to answer when we speak its name? If this sends chills down your spine, subscribe now and join us as we explore more tales of the unknown.
In the center of a sleepy village, there was a well said to be cursed. Long ago, it was used to drown those accused of witchcraft. The townsfolk warned against going near it, but Kyle, ever the skeptic, decided to investigate. He lowered a flashlight into the well, peering down. He swore he saw movement, a pale hand reaching up. Before he could react, he was yanked inside. The villagers heard his screams echo through the night. The next day, the well was dry, and Kyle's name was etched into the stone. When the Thompson family moved into Willow Lane, they were greeted by an unsettling silence. The houses around them, once lively with laughter and chatter, now stood eerily still. Days turned into weeks, and the Thompsons noticed something strange. Not a single neighbor ever ventured outside. Curious yet unnerved, they peered through their windows, hoping to glimpse their silent neighbors. Yet each time, the curtains remained drawn. One evening, as shadows lengthened, a distant scream echoed through the night, chilling their bones. The next morning, the Thompsons learned from the local storekeeper that the entire block had been abandoned for years. Confused, they rushed home, only to find their front door ajar. Inside, the air was thick with dread. Their belongings were untouched, but the house trembled with an unearthly presence. Suddenly, a shuffling sound emerged from the basement. Heart pounding, they crept down the stairs, flashlight shaking in hand. What they found was a room filled with lifeless bodies, their faces frozen in terror. It became clear. The neighbors hadn't just disappeared, they had been taken. And as they turned to escape, the door slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate. There's a serene lake deep in the woods that's said to be cursed. The locals warn that anyone who swims in it disappears. Fiona didn't believe the stories and decided to take a dip on a dare. As she swam, the water grew colder, and the surface began to ripple unnaturally. She felt hands grasping her legs, pulling her under. Her friends heard her screams but saw nothing except bubbles rising to the surface. The next morning, The lake was perfectly still, but Fiona's face stared back at them from beneath the water. The Parkers were thrilled to move to Silent Grove, a small, peaceful neighborhood surrounded by towering trees. The homes were beautiful, each one with a cozy front porch and neat yard. But from the first day, something felt wrong. The neighbors never appeared. Not once did anyone walk their dog, trim their hedges, or even step out to get the mail. The Parkers tried to make sense of it, chalking it up to the small-town tranquility, but the stillness began to feel oppressive. One evening, as dusk settled in, the wind carried a strange sound, a low, rhythmic thumping, like something heavy being dragged across the ground. The Parkers thought it came from the house next door and decided to investigate. The door was ajar. They hesitated, then stepped inside. The house was cold, unnaturally so. The furniture was covered in dust, and the air felt stale. The thumping sound grew louder as they moved deeper into the house, leading them to the basement door. With a sense of dread, they opened it. In the basement, a dim light flickered. The walls were lined with strange symbols, and in the center of the room were rows of wooden chairs. Sitting in each chair was a figure, lifeless but somehow aware, their eyes wide open, staring at the Parkers. Suddenly, the basement door slammed shut and the room fell silent. The Parkers turned, but it was too late. Their reflection in the basement mirror was no longer their own, it was the face of a stranger. Silent Grove had claimed them. The Mitchells were excited to move into their new home on Hawthorne Hill, a quiet street with old Victorian houses. The neighborhood looked perfect, peaceful, and secluded, but something felt off from the start. The streets were eerily empty. The neighbors' houses were well kept, yet no one was ever seen outside. The Mitchells thought it was odd, but dismissed it, until one evening when they noticed a faint glow from the house next door. Curious, they approached and found the door slightly open. Inside, the house was cold and silent. Dust covered every surface, but the furniture looked untouched. A grandfather clock ticked louder than it should have, and the stillness felt unnatural. The Mitchells felt a strange pull toward the basement. As they descended the stairs, the dim light revealed old photographs on the walls, each face blurred, as if erased. The basement door slammed shut behind them. Suddenly, a whisper filled the air. "You're not supposed to be here." Before they could react, the walls seemed to close in. The Mitchells tried to scream, but their voices were swallowed by the house. It dawned on them. They hadn't moved into a quiet neighborhood. They had moved into a place where time had stopped, and the residents had vanished, leaving only their memories behind. And now, the Mitchells had joined them, trapped in the house on Hawthorne Hill. When Sam moved into his fixer-upper, he noticed odd things. Creaks in the ceiling, missing food, faint footsteps at night. He chalked it up to the house settling. But one evening, he found a handwritten note on his nightstand that read, "Thank you for letting me stay." Terrified, Sam searched the attic and found a makeshift bed and discarded wrappers. He moved out the next day, but not before installing a hidden camera. Reviewing the footage, he saw a gaunt figure staring down at him through the attic door, smiling. When Anna moved into her new apartment, she discovered a large walk-in closet. But no matter how much she put inside, it never filled. Curious, she stepped deeper in and found it stretched endlessly, its walls lined with unfamiliar clothes. She tried to turn back but couldn't find the entrance. The farther she walked, the darker it became. Then she heard the faint rustling of fabric, followed by a voice whispering her name. Weeks later, her landlord opened the closet to find it empty, except for a single shoe and her phone playing a faint recording. "Help me." Matt's hotel room was ordinary at first, a bland bed, beige walls, a small TV. But as the night progressed, the layout seemed to shift. The bed moved closer to the door, the wallpaper patterns changed, and the TV displayed static faces that whispered his name. He tried leaving, but the door led back into the room. Panicking, Matt smashed the window only to find another wall behind it. By morning, the room was empty, and the hotel staff swore it had never existed. In a forgotten antique shop, Maria found a candle said to grant wishes. Intrigued, she lit it and wished for wealth. The next day, she found money in her bank account, far more than she'd ever had. But the candle didn't extinguish. Her second wish, for love, came true when a charming stranger appeared in her life. Still, the candle burned. On her third wish, for eternal youth, Maria noticed her reflection growing paler, her shadow vanishing. By the time the candle burned out, Maria was gone, her essence absorbed by the flame, leaving only the unlit candle behind for the next victim. As night draped the town in darkness, a group of friends ventured into the woods, drawn by an ancient legend of a tomb hidden beneath the roots of an ancient oak. The air thickened with apprehension, but curiosity propelled them forward. They stumbled upon the crumbling entrance, half-buried and overgrown, a threshold to another time. A faint whisper echoed within, beckoning them to enter. Each step inside felt wrong, like the tomb itself was alive, breathing with secrets long forgotten. The deeper they went, the more palpable the whispers became, swirling around them like a dark wind. Shadows danced on the walls, twisted faces forming in the stone. Suddenly, one friend, Sarah, stopped, her eyes glazed over, entranced by the darkness. "Listen," she breathed, as if she could hear something they couldn't. The others pulled her back, but she was already slipping away, drawn into the abyss. They tried to escape, but the whispers grew louder, drowning out their cries. In a final desperate act, they fled, leaving Sarah behind. As they burst into the night, the whispers faded, replaced by an eerie silence. Days later, Sarah's name was found carved into the trunk of the ancient oak, her fate sealed in the darkness, a warning for those who dared to follow the whispers of the tomb. The Carsons were eager to start fresh on Elm Street, a quiet, tree-lined road in a small town. Their new house, a charming two-story, seemed perfect, tucked away from the bustle of city life. But as soon as they arrived, they noticed something strange. The street was silent. Not a single neighbor was seen outside. The houses around them were immaculate, yet there was an unsettling stillness in the air. No dogs barking, no children playing, just a thick silence hanging over everything. As the days passed, the Carsons grew more uneasy. One evening, they saw movement through the curtains of the house across the street, a shadow darting past the window. They watched, but no one came out. Driven by a growing sense of curiosity, they decided to visit the house. The door creaked open when they tried it, and the air inside was damp and cold. The rooms were perfectly arranged, but everything felt wrong. Stale, like the house had been abandoned for years. The basement door was slightly ajar. The Carsons descended, their hearts pounding, and found a strange room with rows of empty chairs. In each chair, an outline was visible, as if someone had recently sat there. The air grew heavier, and as they turned to leave, a voice whispered from the shadows, "Stay with us." The door slammed shut behind them. The Carsons' reflection in the dusty mirror wasn't their own. It was a face they didn't recognize. Elm Street had claimed them, and they were now part of the shadows that haunted it. The Miller family was excited to move into their new home on Pine Ridge. The house was charming, tucked away at the edge of the woods, with a spacious yard and friendly neighbors. At least, that's what they thought. From the moment they arrived, an odd quietness lingered in the air. The neighbors' homes were pristine, but no one was ever outside. No cars in driveways, no sounds of life, just stillness. Days turned into weeks, and the Millers began to feel like they were being watched. But every time they looked outside, the streets were empty. One night, as the wind howled through the trees, a soft, distant whisper caught their attention. The Millers couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from, but the voice was unmistakable. "Help us." The sound echoed from all directions, sending chills down their spines. Compelled by fear and curiosity, they ventured to the house next door, the only one that seemed different. Its front door was slightly ajar. As they stepped inside, a cold draft rushed past them, and the door slammed shut behind them. The house was eerily dark, with dust coating the furniture. They moved toward the basement, where the whispers grew louder. At the bottom of the stairs, they found a room filled with old, decaying figures, their eyes wide with terror, as if frozen in time. In the center of the room was a mirror, reflecting not their own faces, but the faces of the long-gone neighbors. As the Millers turned to flee, the whispers turned to screams. Too late. The door locked behind them, and Pine Ridge claimed another family. In the dim light of her grandmother's attic, Sarah discovered an ornate music box, its surface dust-coated and forgotten. She felt an irresistible urge to wind it up. As the delicate mechanism clicked, A haunting melody filled the air, echoing through the empty house. An eerie chill swept over her, and shadows danced along the walls. The music played on, growing louder, wrapping around her like a shroud. As the last notes faded, Sarah thought she heard a whisper, soft and sorrowful. "Help me." Heart racing, she searched the attic for the source. It was then she noticed a faded portrait of a woman resembling her grandmother, eyes hollow with despair. The whispers intensified, now a cacophony, each one pleading for release. Frozen in fear, Sarah felt a sudden gust of wind. The attic window flung open, sending her tumbling backward. The music box rattled violently. In that moment, a figure emerged, a specter of the woman from the portrait, her face twisted in rage and sorrow. "You woke me," she screamed. The melody resumed, but this time it was a dirge, drowning out Sarah's screams, sealing her fate as the next keeper of the cursed tune. Every evening, thick fog rolled through the town, but one night it was different. Emma noticed a figure standing motionless outside her window, barely visible through the mist. Thinking it was a trick of the light, she went to bed. But the next night, the figure was closer. On the third night, it stood at her front door, its outline more distinct, a tall man with no face. Emma called the police, but they found nothing. The following morning, Emma's bed was empty, her room filled with an eerie, lingering mist. It started when Mallory bought the antique mirror at a garage sale. It was tall, gilded, and seemed to shimmer even in the dimmest light. That first night, she noticed movement in the reflection. Just a flicker, she told herself, probably her tired eyes playing tricks. But by the second night, it was unmistakable. A figure, just beyond the frame, watching. Mallory tried covering the mirror, but the shadowy figure seeped through the edges of the cloth. One night, she awoke to the sound of whispers and found the mirror uncovered, the figure now closer, almost stepping out. Her own reflection was gone. The next morning, Mallory disappeared, leaving the mirror behind. The next family who purchased it found her shadow staring back at them.
What if I told you about the Tokoloshi, a notorious creature from South African folklore? This mischievous spirit is said to be a small, hairy humanoid, often described as having a huge head and glowing red eyes. Originating from Zulu mythology, the Tokoloshi is believed to crawl into the beds of unsuspecting victims, causing nightmares and sometimes even death. Its lore varies, with some tales saying it can be summoned by witches, or that it can be controlled with a wooden peg placed under the bed. In reality, the Tokoloshi reflects deep-seated fears in society, often intertwined with real events of unexplained misfortune. Could it be that the Tokoloshi truly lingers in the shadows? Subscribe for more haunting tales.
Ben found an old radio in his attic, still functional despite its age. Late at night, it would turn on by itself, emitting static. One night, through the white noise, he heard his deceased mother's voice calling his name. He tried speaking back, and the voice grew clearer, begging for help and warning him to leave the house. Ignoring the warning, Ben listened for hours. The next morning, the radio was gone, and so was Ben. All that remained was static echoing through the house. The night was still, as Clara knelt before the weathered tombstone, her breath visible in the chill. It had been years since she visited her grandmother's grave, but the locals whispered of strange happenings in the cemetery. They said it was haunted, cursed even, but Clara dismissed those tales as mere folklore. Tonight was different. She had come to perform the last rites, to seek closure. As she recited the words, an unnerving wind swept through the trees, rustling the leaves like whispers. Suddenly, she felt a presence, cold and watching. The air thickened and her heart raced. Clara glanced up, startled to see shadows shifting among the graves, figures cloaked in darkness, with hollow eyes fixed on her. Panic surged within her. She hurried to finish the rites, but the shadows drew closer, their outlines now distinct. A voice, raspy and echoing, called her name. "You shouldn't have come here," it warned. Clara's hands trembled as she completed the incantation, but it felt futile. The last words echoed, and the shadows lunged, pulling her into the earth. As silence fell, the grave stood unmarked, yet a new figure loomed, waiting for the next visit, for the next last rites. The Tanners had always dreamed of a quiet life, so when they found a charming cottage on Ashwood Lane, they were thrilled. The street was lined with tall trees, and the houses seemed to glow warmly under the setting sun. But the moment they moved in, something felt wrong. The neighbors' homes looked perfect, yet no one ever appeared outside. The street was always silent, with not a sound to be heard, not even the rustle of leaves in the breeze. The Tanners assumed it was just a peaceful area, but as days went by, their unease grew. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the Tanners noticed a light flickering in the house across the street. They walked over, drawn by curiosity, and found the front door slightly ajar. Stepping inside, they felt an immediate coldness, as if the house itself was holding its breath. The living room was meticulously clean, but it felt like no one had lived there for years. The only sound was the faint ticking of a clock, its hands frozen in time. As they explored, they found a door leading to the basement. The stairs creaked underfoot as they descended. In the basement, they found a small, dimly lit room with a single chair in the center. Scattered around it were old, faded photographs, each one depicting a smiling family member, but their faces were scratched out. The Tanners turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. A whisper filled the room, "Stay with us." The Tanners tried to scream, but their voices were lost in the silence. The house had claimed them, and Ashwood Lane would never be the same again. It appeared overnight, a carnival on the edge of town that no one remembered arriving. Bright lights and haunting music lured in visitors. Amy and her friends decided to explore it, excited by the strange rides and games. But as the night went on, they realized something was wrong. The rides operated without attendants, the food tasted like ash, and the other patrons had hollow, glowing eyes. Amy tried to leave, but every exit led her back to the carousel. Her friends vanished one by one, their laughter replaced by screams. The next day, the carnival was gone, leaving only Amy's shoe in the empty field. The old factory had been abandoned for decades, its shadows thick with dust and memories. When Mia stumbled upon a half-hidden entrance in the ground, curiosity pulled her in. The air was cool and stale, thick with an unsettling silence. As she ventured deep, the faint sound of dripping echoed in the distance. Her flashlight flickered, casting eerie shapes on the crumbling walls. Each step seemed to provoke the darkness, filling her with a sense of dread. Suddenly, the echoes began to shift, whispers that felt almost familiar, as if someone was calling her name. "Mia, come closer." Heart racing, she pressed on, convinced it was her brother, lost in the depths years ago. The voices grew louder, more insistent, leading her down a narrow passage. She called out, but her words swallowed by the darkness. At last, she reached a small chamber, and the whispers stopped. A chill ran down her spine as she realized she wasn't alone. Shadows writhed along the walls, forming the shape of her brother, eyes hollow and pleading. But as she reached out, a cold hand gripped her ankle, pulling her down into the abyss where the echoes now belonged to her. When the Hargraves moved to Maple Street, they expected a peaceful life. The neighborhood was quiet, with perfectly manicured homes and neat gardens. Yet something was off. No sounds of children playing, no neighbors chatting, just a deep, unnerving silence. Days passed, and the Hargraves noticed that no one ever ventured outside. The curtains in every house remained drawn, and the streets stayed empty. Curiosity turned to unease as they realized they never saw a single neighbor. One evening, a low hum filled the air, coming from the house at the end of the street. The Hargraves, compelled by an odd pull, approached. The door creaked open when they tried it, and inside, the air was heavy, stagnant. The walls were lined with photos, but every face was blurred, erased from existence. A sound emerged from the basement, a slow, rhythmic thumping. Against their better judgment, they descended the stairs. In the dim light, they saw rows of empty chairs, all facing a broken TV screen. The screen flickered, displaying one word, "Watch." The truth hit them all at once. The neighbors hadn't left. They had been replaced. Their memories, their lives, all absorbed by something darker. As the Hargraves turned to flee, the basement door slammed shut. The word flashed again on the screen, "Watch," and the hollow residents of Maple Street waited. In the dim light of her attic, Sarah discovered an ornate, locked box, its surface etched with intricate symbols that seemed to writhe under her gaze. The key was nowhere in sight, yet a whispering urge gripped her heart. She could feel a presence, an awareness that something was waiting just beneath the surface. Ignoring her better judgment, she pried it open with a crowbar, the metal screeching in protest. As the lid creaked ajar, an icy gust swept through the room, snuffing out her lantern and plunging her into darkness. A rush of shadows coiled around her ankles, seeping from the box, forming grotesque shapes that danced menacingly. Panic surged within her. The air became thick with a suffocating dread. Then, from the depths of the box, a voice croaked, low and raspy. "You've let me out." Heart pounding, she stumbled backward, the realization dawning. The box contained not treasure, but a malevolence she had unleashed. The shadows lunged, coiling tightly around her, and in a twisted final moment, her scream echoed, swallowed by the consuming dark. The box slammed shut, waiting, once again, for the next curious soul. Emily found the amulet buried in the garden, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly glow. Intrigued, she slipped it around her neck, unaware of its sinister history. A whisper echoed in her mind, promising a wish for every thought. Skeptical yet curious, Emily closed her eyes and wished for her ailing mother to recover. The next morning, her mother appeared vibrant and healthy, a joy that quickly turned to dread as the amulet pulsed against her chest. Days passed, each wish granted: a promotion, newfound beauty, even the return of lost friends. But with every wish, something was stolen from her. An old photograph of her mother, the laughter of her friends, the spark in her own eyes dimming. Desperate, Emily wished to understand the amulet's true nature. Nightmares invaded her sleep, visions of shadowy figures and anguished screams revealing the truth. The amulet was a parasite, feeding on memories, twisting love into torment. In a final bid for freedom, Emily wished to destroy it. The amulet shattered, but its shards embedded in her skin, merging with her forever. Now she is left with nothing but the hollow echoes of her past, a living